There comes a moment in your life when the pain is no longer a storm, it becomes the weather. You don't flinch anymore when it rains. You don't scream when it thunders. You just look up, let it fall, and keep walking. That's when you know something inside of you has changed. You're not numb. No. You're focused. You're not cold. You're calm. The tears dried up not because you stopped hurting, but because you stopped reacting, because you realized not every feeling deserves a response. Not every emotion deserves a seat at your table. That's when power is born. Quiet, controlled, unshakable. The world wants you to scream, to break, to beg for mercy, but you don't. You stand tall, breathe steady, and speak with silence. That's real strength. When you feel nothing, you no longer dance to the chaos. You lead, you command, you control. Life will always throw storms, but it's not about the storm. It's about the man who walks through it, untouched, composed, eyes forward, heart locked, mind sharp. The one who feels nothing and controls everything. There are moments in life when everything inside you wants to explode. The betrayal, the disrespect, the disappointment. It burns. It shakes your chest. Your fists clench, your voice rises. But you hold it, you breathe through it, you let it pass. Because you understand something most people never learn. Not everything deserves your reaction. The world tells you that strength is loud, that power means domination, aggression, revenge, but that's a lie. Real strength is the man who stands in the fire and does not let the flames define him. Real strength is the woman who is insulted, mocked, underestimated, and still walks with grace. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't surrender to the feeling. You learn how to own it without letting it own you, because the second you start acting on every emotion that rises in you, anger, fear, sadness, you become a puppet of your environment. And you were never meant to be a puppet. You were born to lead, to rule over yourself. And if you can't rule your own emotions, how will you ever rule your life? You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to fight to prove your worth. Emotional discipline teaches you that silence is sometimes the most powerful scream. That walking away doesn't mean weakness. It means you're choosing peace over war that leads nowhere. The undisciplined mind reacts to every trigger like it's life or death. But the disciplined one, it chooses its battles. It thinks before it speaks. It waits before it moves. It listens while others scream. That's not cowardice, that's mastery. You don't need to destroy someone to win. Sometimes the victory is in your ability to remain calm when everything is pushing you to break. You must stop handing people the remote to your emotions. Stop letting situations dictate your character. You were not created to be a victim of your feelings. You were made to master them. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about directing them, channeling them, using them to fuel growth, not destruction. And once you learn to do that, life stops owning you. You start owning it. Most people never find peace because they're slaves to how they feel. One moment they're flying high, next moment crashing low. Why? Because someone looked at them wrong, because someone didn't text back, because the day didn't go the way they expected. That's not living. That's surviving on emotional autopilot. Emotional discipline sets you free from that cycle. It teaches you to pause before the reaction, and it gives you space between stimulus and response. And in that space, there is freedom. In that space, there is power. A disciplined heart knows how to take the hit and still keep the vision. It doesn't lose direction just because pain showed up. Look around, you'll see a world full of people who were one reaction away from ruining everything. One angry outburst, one emotional decision, one weak moment, but not you. Not anymore. You've come too far to let feelings steal your future. It's time to stop being emotionally predictable. Because when people know what buttons to push to break you, you've already lost control. Take it back. You've been broken. You've been lied to. You've cried in silence when no one knew the war inside your soul. But you're still here. That's not weakness. That's proof of your resilience. And now you've got a choice. You can keep letting pain define how you show up in the world, or you can use that pain to strengthen your boundaries, tighten your focus, sharpen your responses. Emotional discipline is what separates survivors from warriors. The survivor hides their feelings. The warrior studies them, understands them, and turns them into wisdom. Every time someone tried to bring chaos into your life, you had a moment to decide, will I match their energy or rise above it? Will I get pulled into their storm or stay rooted in my calm? The more you choose your calm, the more powerful you become. It's not about being passive. It's about being precise. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You stop fighting battles that don't deserve your sword. And in that stillness, you rise. Not louder, not angrier, just unshakable. You can't let emotions lead if they're not trained. An undisciplined emotion will sabotage a decade of discipline. You'll say things you don't mean. You'll push away people who love you. You'll make decisions that take years to recover from. That's the cost of emotional chaos. You need to look in the mirror and say, I'm done bleeding on people who didn't cut me. Emotional discipline teaches you to trace pain to its root. That anger you're feeling, is it about now or about what happened years ago that you never dealt with? That fear you're carrying, is it based on facts or the fiction of your past? You've got to go deep. Heal what's hidden. Calm what's been screaming inside you for too long. The truth is, nobody is coming to calm your storm. That's your job. And the minute you take responsibility for your own peace, the world stops being so loud. The noise loses power. And suddenly you walk through the same chaos others drown in, untouched. They said you were too sensitive, too emotional, that you cared too much. But what they didn't know is that sensitivity, when controlled, becomes insight. That emotion, when mastered, becomes fuel. You see things others miss. You feel energy others ignore. And when you align that with discipline, you become dangerous in the best way, because now you're not reactive, you're intentional. You don't just move with emotion, you move with strategy. And that scares people who can't control you anymore. Emotional discipline shifts the entire game. You no longer fear rejection because you've already accepted yourself. You no longer crave validation because your self-worth is no longer on sale. You become your own source of stability, of focus, of power. That's not cold, that's clarity. The less you chase external peace, the more you build internal fire. And when that fire is focused, it can't be put out. Not by drama, not by opinions, not even by failure. And now every time life tests you, you smile differently because you know this is where your power shows. Not when things are easy, not when people are kind, but when chaos knocks and you open the door with calm eyes and a steady soul. You've walked through hell and didn't scream. You've felt heartbreak and didn't collapse. You've watched everything fall apart and still stood tall. That's emotional discipline. That's your superpower. It's not that you feel less. It's that you've trained your emotions to serve your mission, not sabotage it. So now when they try to trigger you, you don't flinch. When they try to confuse you, you don't fold. When life tries to overwhelm you, you don't react, you respond. Because you're not here to lose your mind, you're here to master it. And in mastering it, you unlock a level of strength most people will never touch. Not because you're perfect, but because you've learned to feel everything and still choose control. Chaos doesn't always come crashing in with noise and destruction. Sometimes chaos whispers. It lives in your mind, in the doubts, the overthinking, the what ifs that never leave you alone. It creeps into your daily routine, poisons your peace, and tells you you're not in control. But hear me, the truth is, control doesn't begin when everything is perfect. It begins the moment you stop letting imperfection run your life. Control is born in the stillness after the storm, when you decide, I'm done letting this chaos tell me who I am. You don't tame the world by trying to fix every piece of it. You tame your world by taking responsibility for what happens inside you, regardless of what happens outside. Most people wait for the world to calm down before they calm down, but not you. You were built to bring calm to the chaos. You are built to carry peace when peace doesn't exist, because you are not here to be ruled by circumstances. You are here to command your response. And that choice, that decision, is where your real control begins. Control is not about forcing everything to go your way. It's about staying grounded when nothing goes your way. It's about being the eye in the storm, the center that doesn't move no matter how loud the wind screams. Everyone wants control when it's easy, but when life hits you with pain, confusion, betrayal, that's when you find out who's in charge of your soul. Will you bend? Will you break? Or will you breathe and rise anyway? That's the battle. Life won't ask for your permission before it brings the chaos. but it will always give you one sacred thing: the power to decide how you respond. Don't give that power away. Don't hand your peace to people who don't even know your story. Don't let temporary madness make permanent decisions in your life. You've got to be able to walk through fire with a calm mind. That's how legends are made. That's how warriors are born. You may not always control what's outside, but the inside, that's your kingdom. Guard it. There's a moment, a quiet shift, when everything falls apart and you don't. When the world expects you to lash out, but you stand still. That stillness, that inner silence, is the foundation of control. Most people live in reaction. Something bad happens, they explode. Something unfair happens, they spiral. But control doesn't live in reaction. Control lives in response. It lives in the pause between the pain and the decision. That pause is where your power waits. That pause is where your strength speaks. And most people miss it because they've been conditioned to move fast, feel loud, and act without thinking. But you learn to slow the chaos down. You learn to hear yourself before you speak. You learn to feel everything without becoming the feeling. And that's how you win. Not by outshouting the world, but by out-centering it. The deeper your roots, the less the storm can move you. Be rooted, be still, be unmoved. Even when everything around you tries to drag you into the fire. Let them panic, let them point fingers, let them stir the drama. You weren't built for that life. You were built for balance. And balance comes from clarity. Control is clarity. It's the awareness to know that chaos isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the test to see if you'll crack under pressure or rise above it. Don't avoid the chaos. Learn to walk through it with grace. Learn to make peace in the places people can't breathe. Learn to create order in your mind while the world loses its own. That's the highest form of power, when nothing owns you. Not fear, not anger, not doubt. Control means you no longer give permission to external things to shape your internal state. You no longer allow temporary noise to alter your eternal vision. You begin to filter what deserves your attention, what deserves your words, what deserves your energy, because you've realized not everything that demands your reaction is worth your response. Sometimes the greatest control is in what you choose not to touch. You ever see someone losing their mind in public, shouting, crying, exploding, and you think to yourself, that used to be me, that used to be my chaos, but now you've grown. Now you've taken the reins. That version of you no longer has the wheel, because you've built something rare: emotional order, mental alignment, spiritual calm. And people won't understand it. They'll try to pull you back into the fire just to see if they can still get a reaction, but you won't give it. You're no longer entertaining storms you didn't create. You've outgrown the impulse to match people's dysfunction. You're not here to be dragged. You're here to lead. And leaders don't chase chaos. They create clarity. When you own your stillness, you become untouchable. Because no one can throw you off center when your center's no longer for sale. Your calm is earned. Your peace is protected. And your control, that's the crown on your character. People often think control means having everything figured out. It doesn't. It means having a compass when you don't. It means knowing where not to go when everything looks tempting. Control is knowing how to speak when your emotions beg you to scream. It's knowing how to act when confusion clouds your vision. It's knowing when to step back when everything says rush forward. And that kind of knowing doesn't come from books. It comes from pain, from loss, from falling and rising so many times that your spirit finally says, no more. No more giving chaos a seat at my table. No more letting confusion be my compass. No more letting temporary storms redefine who I am. Because who you are isn't who you are when things are easy. It's who you remain when everything is falling apart. That's the core of control, the fire of discipline, the light inside you that doesn't flicker when the winds howl. And that light, it's not given, it's forged. And now, when you wake up in the morning, there's a new voice inside you, a quiet one, a strong one. It says, no matter what happens today, I remain. You don't control the weather. You don't control what they do, what they say, how they feel. But you control you, your posture, your presence, your perspective. The chaos may knock, but it will not enter. It may rise, but it will not reign because you've made a decision, and decisions shape destiny. You've decided to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't rise and fall with the room. You set the temperature. You walk into the storm with shoulders back, voice low, spirit grounded. You don't flinch. You don't fold because now you finally understand control doesn't wait for chaos to end. Control begins the moment you decide this chaos will not control me. There comes a time in your life when you realize you're carrying too much, too many emotions, too many people, too many outcomes you can't control. And it's killing your fire. It's choking your focus. You're drowning in things that don't belong in your soul. That's when you learn the art of detachment, not because you stopped caring, but because you started choosing peace over pressure, power over panic. Detachment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you refuse to be ruled by everything. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your worth. You stop trying to convince people to see your value, because real domination, real mastery doesn't come from what you attach to. It comes from what you let go of. You let go of needing to be understood. You let go of needing to be liked. You let go of needing things to happen a certain way. And what rises in the ashes of all that? Freedom, clarity, focus, the kind of energy that doesn't beg, it builds. And you realize this is how warriors move. Not with noise, not with drama, but with discipline, with distance, with direction. People think dominance is about control. It's not. It's about alignment. About being so locked in on your purpose that distractions fall off you like water. You walk into rooms and you're not looking around to compare. You're not measuring yourself by somebody else's success. You're not fighting invisible wars. You're silent, strategic, focused. Because when you detach from the noise, you finally hear your own voice. And when you hear your voice, you remember your mission. You don't get pulled into gossip. You don't chase closure. You don't ask people why they switched up, why they lied, why they ghosted. You don't need their answers. You already have your answer. You're not for everyone. And that's your power. You're not here to be available. You're here to be effective. You don't chase people anymore. You build movements. You don't beg for energy. You become the energy. And the more you detach, the more you rise. Because you've let go of what weighs others down. You've stopped clinging. You've started climbing. You ever notice how peace scares people? How your silence makes them uncomfortable? That's because detachment threatens control. When you no longer react, they can't manipulate you. When you no longer need them, they can't guilt you. When you stop arguing, they lose their grip. Detachment is how you reclaim your throne. It's how you remind the world that your soul is not up for negotiation, that your value does not come with a discount. You're not available for emotional games. You're not on the clearance rack of attention. You're rare, you're expensive, and you cost energy. So either people meet you with respect or they don't meet you at all. You're no longer emotionally bankrupt because you stopped making withdrawals from places that never made deposits. You've gone quiet, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You've stopped answering noise with noise. Now you let your absence speak. You let your results echo. You've learned presence is power, but absence, that's a whole different weapon. You don't dominate life by being everything to everyone. You dominate by being everything to yourself first. That means boundaries. That means walking away from what looks good but drains your spirit. That means disconnecting from the version of you that used to settle. You outgrow people, you outgrow places, you outgrow habits, and it hurts, but it frees you. The butterfly doesn't apologize to the cocoon. It doesn't shrink itself to make the caterpillar comfortable. It flies. And you're in that season now. The season of flight, of letting go with purpose. You don't need closure, you need clarity. You don't need them to come back, you need to move forward. Every time you detach from what's not aligned, your vision sharpens. Your pace quickens, your voice deepens. That's not lost, that's evolution. That's not cold, that's calculated. Because now you've realized you don't dominate by holding tighter. You dominate by releasing with wisdom. There are people who won't recognize you anymore. Good. You didn't go through hell to stay recognizable. You went through it to become untouchable. You were too loyal, too available, too emotionally open, and it broke you. But now you've tightened up. You've learned that not everyone deserves access. You don't let unqualified people influence your emotions. You don't give energy to confusion. You've grown into someone who values peace more than attention, purpose more than approval, legacy more than likes. You're no longer walking into rooms hoping to be seen. You're walking in knowing who you are. And that shift, that inner confidence, it's intimidating. Because people can't manipulate a person who no longer needs their affirmation. They can't guilt someone who's healed. Detachment gave you space to become dangerous in the best way. Focused, grounded, unshaken. And that's how you dominate without raising your voice. Your silence has presence now. Let them say you changed. You were supposed to. You were supposed to outgrow your triggers, supposed to detach from your past, supposed to shed the skin of who you had to be and step into who you choose to be. You've detached from needing to fix broken things, from needing to make it make sense. Not everything deserves your emotional bandwidth. Not every loss needs an explanation. Sometimes detachment is the closure. Sometimes walking away is the healing. You no longer dance with chaos just because it's familiar. You've stopped entertaining patterns that keep you stuck. And the more you let go, the more you step into your power. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for that. People will call you heartless when you stop tolerating their manipulation. Let them. You're not here to manage their insecurity. You're here to build your destiny. And destiny doesn't flow through emotional attachment. It flows through discipline, through direction, through knowing what to release. Now, when you wake up, your first thought isn't who's checking for you, it's what you're checking off your goals. You've got bigger things to build than broken relationships. You've got dreams that need your full attention, not your fractured emotions. You've got a mind that deserves silence, a spirit that deserves peace, and a heart that deserves rest. So you've detached. And that detachment, it's not the absence of love, it's the presence of self-respect. You've stopped trying to save everyone, fix everything, prove yourself to people who never saw you clearly. Because now you see you, and that sight, that clarity, that's domination. Quiet, consistent, powerful. You've realized you don't have to hold it all together to win. You just have to let go of what's been holding you back. Detachment isn't escape, it's elevation. And when you learn to detach with grace, you don't just survive, you lead. You rise, you dominate. You ever felt something so strong it felt like truth? Like the world was falling apart, like you weren't good enough, like you'd never make it out of this moment? You ever sat in silence and heard your own doubt screaming louder than the noise around you? Let me tell you something most people never say out loud. Feelings lie. They whisper things in your ear that sound real, but they're just echoes of fear. Feelings will have you thinking you're weak when you're actually growing. They'll have you believing it's over when it's just beginning. You can feel broken and still be building. You can feel lost and still be right on track. You can feel forgotten by the world, but be seen by God. Feelings are loud, unpredictable, manipulative. But the truth is steady. It doesn't need to yell, it just is. And when you stop letting emotions write your story and start standing in truth, you unlock a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. One that doesn't panic. One that doesn't beg. One that moves in silence because it knows what's real cannot be shaken. Your feelings are shaped by your wounds, by your past, by that voice in your head that never learned how to speak life. That voice doesn't want you to rise, it wants you to stay stuck. And when you feel rejected, it tells you you're unworthy. When you feel afraid, it says you're not ready. But that's not truth. Truth is, rejection was redirection. Truth is, fear is just the gatekeeper before every breakthrough. Truth is, the pressure you feel right now, that's the weight of the future trying to break through. So stop basing your future on feelings born in survival. Stop measuring yourself by temporary pain. Because if you believe every emotion that crosses your chest, you'll end up quitting what you were built to conquer. You'll walk away from what was meant to heal you. You'll sabotage blessings because you felt off for a moment. The storm inside doesn't mean you're failing. It means something powerful is shifting. And the devil wants you emotional so he can make you irrational. But the truth wants you still. Quiet, anchored, focused. Feelings change with the hour. They change with who texted you back. They shift with a phone call, with a glance, with a memory. But truth is eternal. It doesn't bow to circumstance. It doesn't need approval. That's why when life gets heavy, you need something stronger than your mood to carry you. You need a foundation. You need faith. You need purpose. Because emotions scream, run, when life gets hard. But truth says, stand firm. Emotions tell you they don't love you, but truth says you are still worthy. Emotions want to keep you reactive. The truth wants to make you resilient. You don't win by chasing feelings. You win by choosing what's right, even when it doesn't feel good. That's what maturity looks like. That's what growth requires. You stop living in how you feel and start walking in what you know. You don't always feel brave, but you move anyway. You don't always feel strong, but you show up anyway. And over time, your actions build a reality that your feelings finally have to respect. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they trust their feelings too much. They feel tired, so they quit. They feel rejected, so they isolate. They feel anxious, so they avoid. And every time they do, they reinforce the lie. They become prisoners of their own mood. But you've seen enough pain to know better. You've been through hell and still showed up. You've cried yourself to sleep and still gotten up to fight. That's not a feeling. That's a decision. And that's where your power lives, not in what's comfortable, but in what's consistent. Your emotions will lie, but your discipline won't. Your habits won't. Your truth won't. So every time you feel like giving up, remember, feelings are temporary, truth is eternal. The pain will pass, the doubt will fade, but the truth will remain. And the truth is, you were born for more. The truth is, you are being refined, not rejected. The truth is, you've already survived things that should have broken you. So no, you don't need to feel ready. You just need to stay. When you learn to stop letting emotions lead, you stop bleeding over things that were never meant to cut you. You stop handing over your peace because of a text message, a tone of voice, a look. You stop spiraling over assumptions and start grounding yourself in facts. You see the patterns and you break them. You stop reacting and start responding. That's the difference between emotional people and powerful people. Emotional people need the environment to cooperate. Powerful people control their internal weather no matter what's going on outside. They don't follow feelings, they follow truth. And the truth is, you're not broken, you're becoming. The truth is, you're not stuck, you're shedding. The truth is, what you're going through isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not cursed, you're chosen. And when that becomes your foundation, there's not a storm on this earth that can shake you. Because even when your emotions scream collapse, your truth whispers keep going. And that whisper, that's your power. That's your weapon. That's your future calling. There's a version of you that's waiting to be born, and you'll only meet that version when you stop letting feelings write your identity. Your feelings don't define who you are. They're just indicators. They tell you what you're carrying, not who you are. So stop attaching your value to emotional waves. You're not your sadness. You're not your fear. You're not your doubt. You're not your triggers. You're the one who sees it, feels it, and still chooses to move forward. That's what strength looks like. Not perfection, but power under pressure. You get up when it hurts. You speak life when everything around you feels dark. You anchor yourself not in what you feel, but in what you know. And what you know is this: you are not done. You are not defeated, and you are not alone. You have a truth in you that cannot be moved. So let the feelings come, but don't let them stay. Let them visit, but don't let them lead. Because where you're going, feelings can't drive, only truth can. So the next time your emotions start talking, pause, breathe, check the facts. Is it real or just familiar pain? Is it truth or just fear in disguise? You don't need to feel strong to be strong. You don't need to feel confident to act confident. You don't need to feel worthy to live worthy. The truth is already written inside you. It's in your resilience. It's in your scars. It's in every step you've taken through the storm, and it's waiting for you to choose it over chaos. This is not about ignoring how you feel. It's about putting feelings in their place. They are not the guide. They are not the truth. They are not the verdict. They're just the weather. But you are the mountain. And the mountain doesn't move for storms. It stands tall, it stands still, it stands strong, because it knows one thing for sure. Truth always outlasts the rain. Your mind is your greatest weapon or your deadliest enemy. And the battlefield, it's every second you spend alone with your thoughts. If you don't take charge of it, it will take charge of you. It will trap you in doubt and fear and insecurity, make you question everything that was built inside you. Your mind can build palaces or prisons depending on what you allow to grow in it. You think the enemy has to come from outside? No, most battles are lost inside your head long before you ever face the world. You'll talk yourself out of greatness. You'll settle for less than what you're worth. You'll live in hesitation while your purpose walks away. Because if you don't command your mind, it will replay every failure, every betrayal, every word someone said when they were broken and took it out on you. And soon you won't even know what's real anymore. You'll believe every lie. But when you finally wake up and say no more, when you grab your mind by the collar and force it to serve your mission instead of sabotage it, that's when everything changes. You either run your mind or your mind runs you. Every day your mind is feeding you a story. Some of it comes from trauma, some from fear, some from pain you never processed. And if you don't challenge that story, you start living in it. You start wearing it like a second skin. You begin to think this is just who I am. But that's not who you are. That's who life made you believe you had to be to survive. And the danger is, the more you repeat that story, the more your mind treats it like truth. It becomes your reality. So you stop dreaming, you stop reaching, you stop believing that something bigger is possible. That's why mind control is life control. Because if you can't get control of your thoughts, you'll stay a slave to your old patterns. You'll keep attracting pain. You'll keep expecting betrayal. You'll keep sabotaging the love, the success, the purpose that was meant for you. And don't you dare blame life. Life isn't the enemy, your mind. The way it's been trained to think, to fear, to limit you. That's what you're fighting. And the only way to win is to retrain it, discipline it, break it down, rebuild it, and make it your servant. See, your mind will always choose comfort over growth unless you demand otherwise. It will tell you to stay safe, stay hidden, stay small. Because risk feels like danger and discomfort feels like failure. But that's a lie dressed in logic. Growth always looks like pain in the beginning. Healing feels like breaking. Change feels like chaos. And your mind doesn't like any of that. That's why you can't ask it for permission. You have to give it instruction. Because if you wait to feel ready, you'll never move. If you wait until your thoughts line up perfectly, you'll be stuck forever. Greatness isn't about having a perfect mind. It's about having a disciplined one. It's about waking up and saying, I don't care how I feel today. I don't care what my mind says. I'm moving anyway. It's about repetition. It's about habits. It's about shutting down the noise and doing the thing your soul knows you're called to do. Not because you feel confident, but because you decided to stop being a prisoner of your thoughts. Most people live reactive lives. Something bad happens, they spiral. Someone disrespects them, they explode. A door closes, they fold. Because they never learn to master their internal world, they keep falling apart when the external world shifts. But let me tell you something. True power isn't loud. It's not aggressive. It's not chaotic. It's calm. It's still. It's focused. And that only comes from mastering your mind. You can't be emotionally resilient without mental discipline. You can't be consistent without mental order. And you can't be dangerous in your calling if your mind is your enemy. This is why you've got to guard it like your life depends on it. Because it does. Filter what comes in. Refuse to entertain self-doubt. Starve the thoughts that weaken you. Feed the ones that fuel you. And remind yourself every single day, I'm not a victim of what I think. I'm the author of what I believe. That switch, that's how you take control. Your mind doesn't care about your potential. It cares about your patterns. And it will keep repeating the same ones until you interrupt them. It doesn't want change. It wants what's familiar. Even if it's toxic, even if it's painful, even if it's keeping you broke, bitter, or afraid. That's why healing and elevation feel unnatural at first, because your mind has been conditioned to associate survival with struggle. So when peace shows up, your thoughts reject it. When love enters, your thoughts question it. When opportunity knocks, your thoughts hesitate, not because it's wrong, but because your mind hasn't caught up to your destiny yet. And until you rewire it, you'll keep running back to what broke you. This is why self-awareness matters. You've got to sit with your patterns, unpack your triggers, and rebuild your entire operating system. This is about mind renewal. Because you can't walk into your next season with an old mindset. You can't reach your future using the thoughts that kept you stuck in your past. Let me break it down real simple. If you don't take control of your mind, you'll never take control of your life. You'll go wherever your thoughts drag you, into depression, into anxiety, into bitterness, into regret. And you'll think it's fate, but it's not fate. It's lack of training. You train your body, right? You train for jobs, for careers, for skills. But who trained your mind? Who taught you how to speak to yourself when nobody believes in you? Who taught you how to think when the storm hits? Who taught you how to reframe rejection, how to navigate pain, how to sit with failure without losing identity? If no one did, then it's your job now. Because if your thoughts are undisciplined, your emotions will run wild, your decisions will be sloppy, and your life will be built on reactions instead of strategy. That's not how winners move. Winners aren't controlled by their minds. They control them. They program them. They sharpen them. They lead them. And here's the hard truth. Nobody's coming to do that work for you. This is you versus you, your future, your purpose, your legacy. They're all on the line. And your mind is the gatekeeper. Either you train it to serve your mission or it will destroy it. Either you teach it to obey or it will sabotage everything you're trying to build. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for clarity. Stop waiting for a breakthrough that begins outside, because the real breakthrough happens when you say, I run this now. When you decide that fear doesn't get the final word, that doubt doesn't get to write your future, that trauma doesn't get to control your story, you make that decision every day. Not once, not twice, every single day, you wrestle that mind into alignment with your vision. And when you do, when you finally master your mind, there's nothing on this earth that can master you. Power was never meant for the loudest. It was never promised to the most talented, the most educated, or the most connected. Real power, unshakable power, belongs to the one who refuses to fold when life pushes them to the edge. It belongs to the one who stands their ground when everything around them falls apart. Because anybody can be confident when the sun is shining. Anybody can speak faith when the doors are opening and applause is loud, but it takes a different kind of person to keep walking when it's dark, when betrayal hits, when the storm is so heavy it makes you question everything, when people turn cold and life turns cruel. It takes an unshakable soul to keep choosing discipline over distraction, purpose over popularity, and peace over pride. Because strength isn't found in muscles. It's found in what you do when your heart is broken, but your spirit says, get up anyway. That's where the real ones rise. That's where true power is born, not in comfort, but in crisis, not in safety, but in storms. If you can't be shaken, then you can't be stopped. And if you can't be stopped, then this world better move out the way. People don't understand what you've survived. They see the surface, but they don't know what it cost you to stay standing. They don't know the nights you cried alone, the moments you almost gave up, the weight you carried in silence. They see calm, but they don't know the war you fought in your mind to stay grounded. That's why being unshakable doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've trained yourself to not be owned by what you feel. It means you've built something inside of you that doesn't collapse every time life gets hard. You stopped begging for peace and decided to become it. You stopped chasing validation and stood tall in your own worth. That's what unshakable means. It's not arrogance. It's not coldness. It's clarity. It's knowing who you are even when the world forgets. It's knowing your value when others overlook it. It's the power to keep moving when your legs feel weak. That kind of inner force doesn't make noise. It moves in silence, and it shakes everything that tries to break it. And make no mistake, the world will try to break you. But when you're rooted deep, no storm can pull you out. You only become unshakable by walking through what was meant to destroy you and deciding it won't define you. See, people pray for strength, but don't want the struggle that builds it. They want peace without letting go of pain. They want wisdom without surviving the fire. But power doesn't come without pain, and unshakable doesn't come without storms. It's built in the moments when everything in you says, quit. And you choose to rise instead. When you choose stillness in the face of chaos, when you choose discipline over emotion, that's where the foundation gets poured. You stop being swayed by opinions. You stop crumbling under pressure. You stop reacting to every little thing. And that's not weakness. That's mastery. Unshakable people are dangerous, not because they yell, but because they don't flinch. They've seen too much, survived too much, lost too much to be rattled by nonsense. Their silence is strength. Their stillness is strategy. And while the world scrambles to be loud, to be seen, to prove itself, the unshakable are too focused on becoming unbreakable. And don't think being unshakable means you don't get hit. It just means you refuse to stay down. It means you stop negotiating your worth with people who never valued you in the first place. It means you stop giving pieces of yourself away just to keep the peace. You learn that protecting your peace is the power. That silence is louder than screaming. That walking away is louder than arguing. The unshakable don't just move differently, they think differently. They're not chasing noise, they're chasing purpose. And when you find that, when you find what you're built for, what you're called to do, you realize you don't have time to be distracted by everything that doesn't serve it. You become laser focused, you get grounded, and suddenly the things that used to shake you, they don't even move you anymore. You don't beg anymore. You don't break like you used to. You walk in peace, but don't mistake it for weakness, because nothing is stronger than the one who knows what they stand for. It's not about acting tough. It's about becoming rooted. You don't need to prove yourself when your presence already speaks. You don't have to fight every battle when you know not every war is worth your energy. You learn that peace is power and chaos is a thief. The unshakable choose what they respond to because not everything deserves their voice. They're not looking to win arguments, they're looking to win life. And that means walking away from pettiness, ignoring noise, and staying locked in on the mission, because when your vision is strong, your emotions don't get to lead. When your identity is clear, people's opinions don't shake you. You realize that most of the world is reacting, but the unshakable, they're creating, they're building something. And that foundation is what makes them dangerous. You can't manipulate them. You can't intimidate them, because their power doesn't come from approval, it comes from alignment. They don't move unless it's with purpose. They don't speak unless it's with clarity. And that's what makes them unstoppable. Everybody wants results, but not everybody wants roots. You can grow fast, but if you don't grow deep, the first storm will expose you. And when life tests you, it won't ask how gifted you are. It won't ask how loud you can shout or how perfect your plans were. It will ask, what are you grounded in? When people walk away, when money runs dry, when doors close, when everything you trusted starts to crumble, what's left in you? That's the question. The unshakable don't avoid pain. They face it, they process it, and they use it as fuel. They turn heartbreak into healing. They turn silence into strategy. They turn loss into leadership. That's what separates the fragile from the fierce. Life will test you not to destroy you, but to reveal you, to see what's been hiding underneath the surface. And if you want to stand tall, if you want to carry real power, you've got to build deeper than surface, deeper than hype. You've got to build with patience, intention, and spiritual muscle. That's where the unshakable draw their strength from. Not from what's seen, but from what's planted. So if you want the kind of power that can't be bought, can't be taken, can't be faked, then get rooted, get grounded. Grow slow if you have to, but grow deep. Stop chasing validation and start building discipline. Stop chasing clout and start chasing character, because talent fades. Beauty fades. Popularity fades. But inner power, that's eternal. That's legacy. That's what echoes when your voice is quiet. And you'll know you've tapped into it when storms come and you don't move. When losses hit and you don't fold. When people misunderstand you and you don't even flinch. That's the power of the unshakable. They're not waiting to be rescued. They're not begging to be seen. They already know who they are. And when you know who you are, the world can shake, but you don't. Because you weren't built on sand. You were built on truth. And nothing can move that. When life throws its worst at you, when people betray you, when your heart aches in silence and your mind wrestles with chaos, that's when your real power is revealed. Not when you win, not when the crowd cheers, but when you keep going while bleeding. This world will test you over and over, not because it hates you, but because it's trying to see if you're worthy of the strength you claim to have. And the ones who rise through it all aren't the ones who scream the loudest or fight the hardest, they're the ones who master stillness, who build an inner world so strong that nothing outside of them can break. Control starts the moment you decide that your emotions no longer have permission to govern your life. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop craving comfort and start creating clarity. Emotional discipline is the force that holds your peace in the face of provocation, the quiet armor that shields you when life gets messy. You learn that detachment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's choosing not to let people's actions manipulate your mind or your spirit. Because when you stop dancing to the noise of the world, that's when you begin to hear the truth that's always been inside you. And the truth is, your feelings lie. They'll tell you to quit. They'll convince you you're not enough. They'll try to distract you with temporary highs and shallow validation. But if you want power, real power, the kind that lasts, you have to silence the noise and lean into what's real. You don't live by emotion. You live by vision, by purpose, by truth. The mind is either your servant or your master. And if you don't take control of it, it will control you. The thoughts you entertain become the life you experience. That's why you must become a guardian of your mental space, feeding it with faith, focus, and fire. There's a force inside you that most people will never tap into, not because it's not there, but because they never quiet themselves long enough to find it. But you're different. You're not here to be tossed around by this world. You're not here to shrink. You're not here to be a slave to your past or your pain. You're here to rise. You're here to take dominion over your life, to become unshakable, to walk with purpose, power, and peace that confuses this world. And when people wonder how you keep moving, how you stay calm, how you radiate that strength, they won't realize the battles you've won silently, the chaos you've mastered, the emotions you've overcome. So walk tall, walk silent, and walk strong. Because your power doesn't need applause, it just needs consistency. Remember, feel nothing, control everything. Because the one who can't be shaken can't be stopped. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded, stay focused, and stay true to who you are. God bless you. Keep walking.